We gather here as one community to celebrate your commencement, to rejoice in your accomplishments. It is a time for reflection, a time to give thanks for the devotion of your teachers, for the lessons you have learned, for the bonds you have formed with classmates, for the beauty of this place. It may seem contrary to the spirit of the occasion, but I would like to speak to you about controversy, its inevitability in a free society, its occasional unpleasantness, and ultimately, its value. We have had a substantial measure of controversy on our campus this year. It would seem appropriate to reflect upon what we have learned. The inevitability of controversy in public life is described by James Madison in the Federalist Papers. I quote, "The latent causes of faction are sown in the nature of man. A zeal for different opinions has divided mankind into parties, inflamed them with mutual animosity, and rendered them much more to vex and oppress each other than to cooperate for their common good." The belief that all competing values can be harmonized, that all interests can finally be reconciled, is a common feature of Platonic, Judeo-Christian, Enlightenment, and Marxist thought, though it's expressed in very different forms. As Sir Isaiah Berlin, the distinguished historian of ideas and political philosopher, explains, three common threads run through these systems of belief. First, all genuine questions have only one true answer. Second, there is a dependable path to the discovery of these truths, which in different systems of belief involve a different combination of reason, faith, and divine intervention. And third, the answers to all genuine questions are compatible with one another and form into a single whole, for it is assumed in these belief systems that one truth cannot be inconsistent with another. As Madison points out, controversies in the public arena can inflame factions with mutual animosity, kindle unfriendly passions, and excite violent conflict. In a free society, we seek to counter the tendency for controversy to degenerate by establishing rules and observing customs that preserve civility. In this university, we have a strong tradition of tolerating controversy. Free expression is protected, even if the speaker's words are bitter, disrespectful, insensitive, or hurtful. These rules combine to produce an atmosphere of free and open debate, a climate in which the answer to a false argument or a hurtful argument is not the suppression of speech, but more speech. Argument is met with counter-argument. The controversy on our campus this past year has, for the most part, honored these rules of civility. Passions have been inflamed, and at times rhetoric has been shrill. Demonstrably false claims have been trumpeted as truths. This has been uncomfortable, even disturbing, but each side has had ample opportunity to make its case. If conflict among legitimate values is inevitable, how should we conduct ourselves? If Berlin is right, we must not only compromise with one another, but each of us must privately balance the competing claims of legitimate yet ultimately irreconcilable values. By a thoughtful, well-reasoned assessment of competing claims, one can chart a highly principled, if not ideal, course of action. Let us take Abraham Lincoln as an example. He was not inalterably committed to a single unchanging vision that directed all his actions. He was not, for example, an abolitionist, although he found slavery morally repugnant. He entered his presidency seemingly driven by one objective: preservation of the Union. Gradually, by a combination of external circumstances and the growth of his own self-confidence, he came to grasp that bringing an end to slavery was a practical possibility. And thus he allowed another objective, that all men are created equal, to become a guiding principle. Lincoln's principled pragmatism stands in stark contrast to behavior that is driven by a single, all-embracing vision. Among the fragments of the Greek poet Archilochus, Isaiah Berlin found vivid expression for this opposition. I quote the Greek poet: "The fox knows many things, but the hedgehog knows one big thing." Lincoln did not, in Berlin's words, relate everything to a single central mission, a single universal organizing principle in terms of which all that he was and said has significance. If he had done so, he would have been a hedgehog. Instead, like the fox, Lincoln seized upon the essence of a variety of objects for what they are in themselves, without seeking to fit them into one unchanging, all-embracing, sometimes self-contradictory, at times fanatical, unitary intervision. Now, some of you who graduate this weekend may be hedgehogs. And to you, I would say, beware the excesses of the true believer. Use the tools of critical inquiry that you have acquired here at Yale to remind yourself that the end you seek, however worthwhile in itself, does not always, does not often, perhaps does not ever justify means that are intolerant and inhumane. To those of you who are foxes, I would say, prepare yourselves to tolerate ambiguity, to accept the fact that conflict among values is inescapable. Your lives and the world you live in are imperfect, but your Yale education has prepared you for them. You have learned to think clearly and independently, to disentangle difficult ideas, to shape and balance competing claims as you shape your own lives. Women and men of the class of 1996, that's your cue, you're supposed to stand up. We'll take it from the top. Women and men of the class of 1996, hedgehogs and foxes alike, I hope that you will never be overwhelmed by controversy, but that you will not avoid it altogether. Use the powers that you have developed here to learn from the struggle with competing ideas and values. Though you may not build Jerusalem, may you never cease to improve yourselves and the world around you.
honored guests, faculty members, and members of the class of 1996. It is both a pleasure and an honor to welcome you to these Class Day exercises. I find it truly daunting to stand before you and attempt to somehow characterize what the last 4 years have meant. We have grown up together. We have touched each other's lives. We have affected each other in ways we do not realize. When I look out and see my classmates, I see them as my friends, my companions, and my peers. I see individuals who I admire and respect. I have watched my classmates measure up to the challenges of life and have proudly observed as they handled adversity with the utmost grace and dignity. We have truly been and will continue to be each other's greatest teachers. And we must remember that this all happened in a very specific place. We came here to New Haven, Connecticut, to stand beneath these ivied walls, to become a part of Yale and its history. When we decided to come 4 years ago, whether we knew it then or not, we took on the responsibility to become part of a narrative larger than our own. Through our moments of self-doubt, the wondering if there hadn't been some mix-up in the admissions office, questioning whether or not we could ever measure up to the standards set by Yale, our peers, and by ourselves, we have survived. We are 1,300 remarkable individuals, but more importantly, we are a community. This implies that we share something among us. This is ultimately what makes our experience together so unique. No one will walk through these gates tomorrow without having touched someone else's life or without having been affected by someone else. And when we go through those gates, our obligation to share does not end. We become a part of a different community, and in these new surroundings, we must continue to give. As tempting as it might be to bask in the glory of the past, there is too much to do, too much lies ahead, and the path is filled with challenges. I am grateful to all of you for being a part of my life, and I thank you for letting me be a part of yours. Again, congratulations and enjoy the day. Thank you.
And also for all of your work this year. It is now my honor to introduce our guest speaker for these 1996 Class Day ceremonies. Henry Winkler is well known to all of us for his achievements in film and television, and brings with him today wisdom garnered not only from his career as an actor, director, and producer, but also from experience as a Yale graduate and as a leader in children's advocacy work. In October 1973, he was cast in his most memorable role as Arthur Fonzarelli. Made him one of the most recognized actors in the world, earning him 2 consecutive Golden Globe Awards for Best Actor in a Comedy Series, and 3 Emmy nominations in the same category, and a star with his name can be found on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The Fonz will certainly be remembered as one of the most endearing and certainly the coolest character ever to grace the television screen. On behalf of the class of 1996, I would like to thank him for being with us today. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Henry Winkler.
Thank you. All right. I cannot tell you how happy I am to be here. I cannot tell you what a great honor it is in my life that you asked me to be here. And I stand here. I think you show great taste. I stand here before you being mostly who I want to be. And I say mostly because it is unbelievable to realize how ongoing the process is to get to be who you want to be. When I sat where you are, all I wanted was to graduate. I thought if I graduated, life was a breeze. And then I realized that when I got around that corner, there was another corner. If I could just get around that next corner, I would have it made in the shade. And there are corners after corners after corners. And it is so important that you do the work on yourself emotionally, mentally, physically. Because you take your suitcase of self wherever you go. Your psycho junk, your humor, your anger, your memories. They all go with you. And it is up to you, each one of you, to go through that process of growth of spirit, of your mind, of your body, to become who you want to be. And my journey started in New York City on October 30th, 1945. My parents are short Germans. My father brought his business over here from Europe. He kept asking me, "Why do you think I brought this business over here?" I said, "Besides being chased by the Nazis, Dad, was there a bigger reason than that?" I wanted to be an actor, and he wanted me to be a lumberman. There is an epigram that was sent to me by a fan that hangs on the wall in my office. It says, "If you will it, it is not a dream." I had no idea how important that phrase was going to be in my life. I had no idea how true that phrase was in the world until it hung there for some while. When I started, my self-image was down around my ankles. I think I've got it up to my sternum now. In high school, my American history teacher said, "Winkler, if you ever do get out of here, you're going to do great." I was told that I was lazy, I was told that I was stupid, that I was not living up to my potential. I'm so glad you understand. Now, my parents came from Europe, you know, I mean, my mother could do math in her head. How could I be stupid? I didn't want to be stupid. Math was for somebody else. You know, in your SATs, of course, you get 200 just for writing your name correctly, 134 over my name. I am in the bottom 3% in this country in math. Thank you for your support. Needless to say, my high school career was not stellar. I never quite made the dean's list. If you have ever been grounded, you can blame that on my parents. I believe they invented it. I did not see the moon for my junior year. Albert Schweitzer said that the one essential thing for us to do as human beings is to turn on that light inside of us. And I believe that the main switch is guarded by the parent. It must be nurtured. The child must be understood so that that light can eventually go on with all its inner strength. In 1976, when the show was on the air, we were doing very nicely. Everybody liked the Fonz. I was asked to do a film strip. It was called Everybody Has a song. And I thought, you know, it's for kids with learning disabilities. I'm going to help these kids. Why not? I'm on TV. It will make sense. It'll help them. I'll do a good turn. And as I read the script, I went, oh my goodness, I am one of these kids. I'm not stupid, I'm dyslexic. But I only found out when I was 31. As a student, I didn't know that. So we read these novels, you know, The Octopus by Frank Norris about the Grange Wars. And all of my classmates were writing in the margin. They were writing all of the symbolism and the imagery. And I wanted to write so badly. I wanted to know what to write in the margin, except I didn't know what they were writing. So I took little droplets of water and I put them on the book. And the pages crinkled up, and it really looked like I was using that book. I knew that somehow how I felt about myself on the inside was in direct opposition to what people were seeing on the outside. Could I be successful? Could I meet my dream? Could I shake hands with what it is that I wanted to do? I didn't think so. And then I had to apply to college. Now you guys, what, you applied to 3, right? Your strong school, your first one, your second school, and your safety. 24 schools. I applied to 24 schools. I got into 2. Park University in Missouri. I never heard of anybody who went there. I think it's like some doorway on the prairie of Missouri. And Emerson College in Boston, where I spent 4 wonderful years. And in my senior year, I applied to the Yale School of Drama. And I thought I was committing hubris. I thought, how could I apply? I'm stupid. How could I apply to Yale? And in the spring semester, as I was writing a paper for sociology, I got the call, would you like to join us in September at Yale? I threw the windows open. I yelled out to everybody that could hear me. I got into Yale. I called my parents. I said, I got into Yale. And of course, the very supportive short Germans, this is nice. They were there for me at every turn, you know what I mean? I ran down to the student union. I told everybody I got into Yale. I went home, and it cost me $53 because I had locked myself out. Left the key under the sociology book. And then I got to Yale. And we sat in the theater across the street, and the dean, he said, look to your left. Look to your right. One of you will not be here in September. I knew this man was looking right at me. He didn't know my name yet. He couldn't place my face. He was looking right in my eyes. I went home and packed. Allowing negative thoughts to live in your mind and body, it's powerful and it is addictive. And what I have learned is that there is no nutritional value in a negative thought. I am living proof of that fact. Those negative thoughts that live in your mind and in your soul, they pervade every part of your life. And you know that's those thoughts. I'll never, she won't go out with me, he won't go out, I'll never get that job, I'll never achieve, I won't be able to, I can't. And I started to read Gurdjieff. And the philosopher is so difficult that he writes his books with the first 100 pages so convoluted that he doesn't want you to get through them, and I complied. I closed the book. I didn't know what he was talking about. And I went to his disciple Ouspensky, and I learned an incredible lesson from Ouspensky. Don't put a period on the end of a negative thought. When those thoughts, I can't, I won't, it will never happen, come into your mind, you say, I'm sorry, I have no time for you now. If you put a period on the end of a negative thought, it will become a paragraph, and that paragraph will become a thesis of negativity that will hold you in your place. And if you say, I have no time for you now, if you make that a part of your ritual, if you don't put a period on the end of that negative thought, it will leave, and you will continue your march toward your dream. I am living proof, if you will it. It is not a dream. And then I left Yale after a year in the repertory company here. And I went to New York and I started doing commercials. And of course, all my friends from the Yale Drama School said, I don't know how you can do them. We were trained to do the theater. And the next question was, how do you get them? And one of my first commercials was a close-up commercial. One of the nice things my parents did for me, they sent me to an orthodontist. And I went in and I couldn't believe it. I mean, all these guys, the room was filled with these gigantic guys in these pressed jeans, and every one of them was named Chad. And I was so angry. I said, how can you send me here? I mean, I'm with a big, and these guys are... And all I remembered was I knew what I had learned here, and I went in and I improvised and I got the job. I got the job. And I earned enough money to go out to California for 1 month. And at the end of that month, I auditioned for this show. I went into this room at Paramount. And there was the casting director, and Gary Marshall, and Tom Miller, and this guy Pasquale, who I was going to read with. And I made a choice that I would be the only one standing at the end of my reading, that I would use the words to make this Pasquale sit down. I had a gigantic sweat stain on my shirt. I said, this is in direct correlation to the fear that is running through my body at this moment. And on my birthday, October 30th, 1973, they called and said, would you like to play the Fonz? And I said, if you let me show the other side, when he takes his leather jacket off and he's at home, who does he have to be cool for? If you let me show the other human side, I don't know where I got the nerve to talk to the producer like this. And they said, okay. And I spent the next 11 years having one of the best times of my life. If you will it, it is not a dream. And it is a great honor to be on television, especially here in America. There is a terrific proverb, a Chinese proverb. The flowers of all our tomorrows are in the seeds of today. I'm very lucky. I'm married to a very wonderful and powerful woman, Stacy. We have 3 great children, Jed, who's 25, Zoe, who is anywhere from 15 to 19. I can't tell you because you might know somebody she talks to on the phone. And Max, who is 12 and a half. Being a parent, I think, is one of the most difficult jobs on the face of the earth. You have to be a life guide, a teacher, a student, a chef, a disciplinarian, a storyteller, a historian, a chauffeur, a psychologist, Darth Vader, a social planner, adept at Double Dragon 2, and a bank. And that's only a third of the job. And no matter where you are, no matter what you have achieved, children are the great equalizer. I'll tell you a quick story. I took all 3 children to a Dodger game. We're sitting there, we're just having a hot dog, you know, and some soda, and all of a sudden, the camera put my picture on the Diamond Vision in the middle of the field. There were like 30, 40,000 people there, and they started to cheer my name. Henry, Henry, Fonzie, Fonzie. The younger kid said, Dad, they're cheering your name. Do you hear them? They're cheering your name. I said, no, I'm a mirage. I'm not here. We start to leave. They said, Dad, this is so cool. Did you hear them? They're cheering your name. Oh, it's unbelievable. We're driving home, and Jed said, well, you know, you're going to have to get used to this. Some people will be friends with you because of your dad, and other will be friends with you because of you, and I figured it out. You will, too. All of a sudden, became the great sage. We get home. It takes 24 minutes to get home from the ballpark to our house. I walk into Zoe's room. I said, Zoe, we made a contract that you would pick up some of your clothing and put them back on a hanger. She turned to me, she said, I will never cheer your name. If they knew you, they wouldn't whisper your name. It is amazing to me that we, the greatest country in the world, are so disrespectful to our children. Why? Because they can't vote? But they will one day. Not long ago, our government tried to make ketchup as part of the vegetable group for school lunch. That's a thoughtful, balanced meal. And now the government is trying to cut out the breakfast program, sometimes the only meal a child has during the day. Now, how can our flowers grow if they don't have any nourishment? How can they think? How can they remember? How can they learn if they're hungry in the greatest country in the world? We want everything as fast as our instant food hamburgers in this country. Our mindless need for everything that is new is incompatible with the harmony of living on this earth. Our short-term need for gratification so outweighs our long-term interest in the future. Without being considerate toward ourselves and one another, we pass on a chaos to our children that then is translated into violent and destructive behavior. Considerate behavior to others can only come when we are considerate to ourselves first. And until then, that destructive behavior destroys our children and the communities that we live in. And that violence has finally shaped our children's communication. One child wants another child's Nikes. Instant communication. Boom, a bullet. It was in the LA Times just a little while ago. One man didn't like where he was sitting at the wedding. He shot the groom. Every day, 135,000 of our children take a gun to school. Every 36 minutes, a child is killed by a gun in the greatest country in the world. I spoke to a doctor who works in Boston at Mass General. She said, you know what is shocking? That the kids come in here where they're wheeled into the emergency room, and their biggest shock is that bullets hurt. They don't even know what they have in their hands. We have to take our country back. And basically, you must lead the way. This great country, it seems to me, was built on the fact that we helped each other, that we birthed each other's babies, and we cleared each other's lands, and we built each other's homes. And now we put bars on the windows and doors to keep that very neighbor out. Our strength as a country, as a community, as a world, depends upon the kindness of strangers and not the fear of them. We worry about not being able to walk down our streets. We worry about jails being built in our neighborhoods. We worry about our possessions, but we worry so little about giving children a strong and nourishing start in prenatal and daycare in the greatest country in the world. 13 million of our children live below the poverty line. 13 million children go to bed hungry almost every day, have no health insurance, and millions more are underinsured. So many parents in the greatest country in the world play by the rules and can't make ends meet. And unless we find a way to make work pay, millions of children grow up seeing that hard work is not an alternative to welfare or drugs. My wife and I work with children at risk and see so many young ladies who are 12, 13, 14, who know that they have to be pregnant by the time they're 18 in order to survive in the greatest country in the world. The energy you put out is the energy you get back. And as leaders, as future leaders, You have to concentrate your energies outside of yourselves. Put them into your family, into your community, your personal work. You will achieve a great peace of mind, and only then will we achieve together peace on earth. Genius is merely your initiative on fire. And the best advice that I can give you, and I used to have like phrases, I used to make, assumptions are the termites of relationships. I wrote that. But here it is. This is the only advice that I can really give to you. Listen to your instincts. You are very educated people, but your mind knows only so little compared to what your inner voice knows. Your first impression will always put you on the right track. You know it's true, you've seen it work, you don't trust it yet. You must listen to your instincts, to your first vision. When you are young, you have an intuition about that you're going to do something great with your life. And then you have a family, you get a job, you start paying bills, you don't like the job, it's not the job you wanted. It starts to blur your dream. If you allow your sense of self to erode, then everyone here, then our country is robbed from that gift that the whole you would have given us, that you would have made. It is up to you to be an example of tolerance, of caring, of mutual respect, not just when it is easy, especially when it is difficult. You know what I think? I think that the worst thing that ever happened to our country is the quarterly report. Having to show a profit 3 or 4 times a year, and now all bets are off on how that profit is shown. We are going after the wrong P. The population, the individual, is completely overshadowed. The pride, the joy of the process, of loving, of doing what you want to do, is overshadowed by having to show a profit. We are going to bottom line ourselves into oblivion if we're not careful. Somewhere in the last 30 years, the individual has become more important than the collective whole. The power of the mind is boggling. The power of your inner power is boggling, and you all have it, and it is up to you to tap it. You know, when you do a television show, you're in this kind of big room, it has no windows, the door closes by a chain. You have no idea what effect you're having outside.
And there is this special arts festival that they have in LA down at the Music Center every year for the physically and mentally challenged artists in the school system in LA. And I was invited several times to be the chairman, the honorary chairman. And I was walking through the students and the artists, and we were hugging. And all of a sudden, a little girl behind me went, "Fonz." And I turned around, and her mother was crying and passed out. We had no idea why. And when we revived her, she said, "You don't understand. My daughter is 7 years old. She just spoke her first word. She's autistic." And it was Fonz. Somehow we translated through the television into that girl's soul, and the next year I went back and I met her again. She added 100 words to her vocabulary, and she wanted me to hug her sister because I hugged her the year before. And on the complete other end of the spectrum, in the 7th year, we did a show where the boys were already in college, and they took me to the library, and I said to Richie, "I got a library card. This is very cool." You know, Anybody can get one of these suckers, and you could meet chicks there, too. Registration for library cards went up 500% in America within a month of that show airing. Gandhi said, if we are going to achieve any kind of real peace on the earth, we must start with our children. The lesson for me is that human energy is so powerful. It is as easy for you to be positive as it is to be negative. It takes no more energy. And it is your job to align yourselves with humor and with tenacity and focus in on your dream. Now, we've talked this afternoon about my life and about yours and how they relate to others. I'd just like to leave you with 3 central themes. One is that you have to make the most out of yourselves, because if you don't, we only have one chance, probably only one life, and every one of you is a unique and irreplaceable combination of qualities. You must trust your instinct. Your instinct knows all. And second, you have to make the most out of yourselves, because that's the only way that you can give the most to others. There are things to be done, there are needs to be met, there are hurts to be healed. If you don't do your part now, something very important will remain undone forever. And third, give the most to have the most potential, and yet are the most vulnerable, the children at the beginning of their lives. You can be their voice before they can speak. You can take action for them before they take their first step. And never forget who you are. Never forget where you come from. Never forget to give back for everything that you've gotten in return. I promise you this. The anticipatory fear that is coursing through your body as you sit there, wondering about this new journey you're about to take tomorrow or the middle of the summer or next September, is worse than the exciting journey you're about to go on. You know how to get what you want. You are very powerful. Be kind to yourselves. For God's sake, be kind to each other, and it will give you a never-ending supply of power that will let you take your place on this planet. This world is yours. Go and take it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Winkler, for those wonderful remarks. Mr. Winkler has a very busy schedule this weekend with a family wedding in New York. In fact, he has to leave right now. So we particularly appreciate his making the effort to be with us this afternoon. Thank you again, and we really hope you're not late. Good luck.
Here now to present the class of 1996 history are Jeffrey Klein and Corey Stern of Ezra Stiles College.
Welcome, fellow students, honored guests, parents, and friends. The minute they told me that I was chosen as class valedictorian, I instantly called home. because as you know, it is every Jewish mother's dream that her son will be honored in such a glorious manner and be chosen to speak at his own graduation. And I was really surprised because I thought, how could I be class valedictorian with only a 3.2? You should all be ashamed of yourselves. I hardly studied at all.
Corey, we're the class historians. We give a short speech about the history of our class at Yale, okay?
Oh. Mom, might want to cancel that full-page ad in the New York Times.
And also, before we begin, we would like to address all of the seniors who have come up to us requesting that we mention their names in our class history.
In response to this, we've prepared a short statement. No. Now that we have dispensed with all the formalities, we would like to move on to the class history. We view our Yale career as a series of choices, some of which we made, and unfortunately, some of which were made for us. Which brings us to our theme for the afternoon.
The top 10 things Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the past 4 years.
Let's begin by taking you back. It's April 1992. We're seniors in high school, and we have lots on our mind. The prom, that nagging case of virginity that we just can't seem to shake, fake IDs, and whether or not Grandpa's 1974 avocado green Pinto wagon will make it to school tomorrow. But most importantly, those fat and skinny envelopes that invariably came to our doorsteps that second week in April. Which brings us to the number 10 thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the past 4 years.
Now, I'm sure you can guess this one, Harvard University. But I wouldn't have wanted to go there anyway. Harvard's full of a bunch of overachieving dorks who don't know how to party.
Yeah. Imagine going to a school like that. Fortunately, the fat envelope from Yale came, and we could spend the rest of senior year being obnoxious to our teachers.
The last summer before college was spent relaxing on vacation or at a job, taking it easy, and telling our high school sweethearts that we would love them forever.
Or until someone better came along.
And also, searching the blue book for classes in which we could blossom to adulthood, suck the marrow from life, seize the day, and carpe diem.
This was before we learned the term gut.
In late August, we set off to New Haven with our cars overflowing with garbage our parents bought us that we would never ever use.
The fall semester of freshman year was a time of introduction to many of the traditions that make Yale University the unique experience that it is. One example of this is Halloween and the Pearson Inferno.
Yeah. Go Pearson. Yeah. The Inferno's still a little puzzling to me. I woke up the next day with a splitting headache and the Grim Reaper lying beside me. Now, Grim Reaper, I never found out who you were, but I'd like to thank you for a great, great evening.
Our trek through freshman year continued. Early November gave many of us our first opportunity to vote in a presidential election. And Thanksgiving break brought us our first taste of the Yale-Harvard game.
Unfortunately, we lost, but we drank their beer, knocked down their alumni, and kidnapped their mascot. Corey, do you think he ever found his way out of the steam tunnels?
I don't know, but if the administration finds him down there, he's going to get expelled.
Soon after Thanksgiving came what was a shock, a mystery to us freshmen. Reading week, another whole week without classes. But soon after that came another shock, finals week, and then we sort of all understood reading week.
Christmas break was a well-deserved rest from the rigors of college life. We all returned home to our high school friends with stories about all-nighters, drunken parties, our favorite professors, their daughters, and the all-around wackiness that is Yale.
Our parents were surprised to find that we were not only smarter, but also heavier. With the average freshman weight gain for the class of 1996 being an approximate 17.6 pounds. Congratulations, fellow 96ers. We've amassed approximately 21,000 pounds since we've arrived here.
By second semester, we had learned to take advantage of what Yale had to offer. Academic opportunities,
Extracurricular opportunities,
residential college life.
where to get free condoms.
You know, I still have those condoms.
Well, be that as it may, we all survived our first dreary New Haven winter and made it to spring. Flowers were in bloom, love was in the air, naked people ran across Old Campus for no reason at all. And the weather turned warm again, which, by the way, made my room, LA 11, unbearable, considering I was right over the boiler room. It was like a sauna. I would come home from class and find fat old men in towels sitting on my bed.
Well, anyway, Tang rolled around with the end of classes, and we were introduced to yet another Yale tradition. Men and women, locked in a mortal struggle for supremacy, rising to the challenges set before them by the stiffest competition that their peers had to offer, and then passing on their turkey stir-fry at dinner.
The summer after freshman year was a time to rekindle old friendships, travel to exciting places, make some money for the next year, and try to get back together with that girlfriend we just mentioned who we dumped 6 months ago for someone else.
Our sophomore year began with the 9th thing that Corey and Jeff were ejected from in the last 4 years, the presidency of Yale University.
I really thought I had that one in the bag. I padded my resume and everything. I even went to career services.
You went to career services? Well, that's why you didn't get the job. The beginning of sophomore year also plucked us from the blissful togetherness that embodies Old Campus and sent us off to our respective college to never, ever see our friends again until today.
Hey, that's Joey Rosner. Hey, Joey.
Joe, what's going
up,
on?
man? Good to see you.
Anyway, something was rotten in the state of Connecticut. Some dastardly scoundrel had taken away one of our fundamental human rights. The right to get a D in a credit-fail class without it appearing on our permanent transcripts. Where was the ACLU when we needed them most?
There were also some major structural changes. High Street was made off limits to cars, and another new addition was Maya Lin's women's table. So, by my count, Maya Lin has designed a wall and a table. Corey and I are waiting for a couple chairs and maybe a ceiling, and then we'll move in. The first semester also brought forth a new Yale publication, which brings us to the 8th thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the past 4 years. Rumpus Magazine's 50 Most Beautiful People.
Obviously, I was an oversight.
Obviously. Corey, you'll always be beautiful to me.
Thank you.
Anyway, sophomore year continued, and somewhere, somehow, a breach in the nearly flawless Yale University security system had occurred, which meant by the middle of sophomore year, almost every one of us had a master key. We all remember those hours of fun and impressing your friends, stopping on the way to class to let shady-looking strangers into Davenport.
Sophomore year went on as expected. We became too cool for Naples, and we also learned a little etiquette, realizing that throwing up for distance was neither attractive to the opposite sex nor the thing to do. Yes, all was well until outspoken O.J. Simpson supporter Alan Sedgwick, still reeling from a Yale rejection letter 25 years before, wrote an article chronicling the death of Yale for GQ. This article, lacking factual information, or even cool pictures of guys with washboard abs, proved to be a monumental disaster for the publishers of GQ. Yale's reaction was swift. Out-of-work humanities majors wrote eloquent letters to the editor, while angry investment bankers slashed Sedgwick's credit rating.
Anyway, how could we take anything seriously from a magazine that smells like Dracar Noir? There was also some news from the Yale administration. After a lover's quarrel, it was Splitsville for Judith Rodin and Yale University. Judy headed south to the city of brotherly love, where she became the first woman president of an Ivy League university.
Jeff, Penn is not in the Ivy League.
I'm sorry. Anyway, the summer after sophomore year was marked by one event that no one will be able to forget. A double murder, car chases on the LA freeway, and scandals involving beautiful women.
Yeah, Speed was a great movie. Sandra Bullock is a total babe.
I thought Keanu Reeves is a fantastic actor as well.
Oh, yeah. That summer also brought the biggest tragedy to ever occur within Yale's ivory tower. The replacement of Demery's with a French bakery cafe. Ordering a pitcher and a slice at Au Bon Pain was one of the most embarrassing and disappointing experiences of my Yale career. The pitcher Frappuccino kept me up for days.
Junior year began with a marked decrease of students living in their colleges.
This meant forming relationships with people in your college you never thought you'd hang out with, based on the fact that your good friends were 6 miles away on Orange Street.
I guess we met Morse.
Yeah, there you go.
To stem the tide of students moving off campus, President Levin granted each college $10,000 to improve campus life. He regretted this decision after Timothy Dwight's Master T lost their $10,000 in a bet over the Ting Cup with Stiles' Master Lawler. Unfortunately, Master Lawler lost it all at Foxwoods.
First semester presented some talented students with a delightful surprise. We, however, were neither delighted nor surprised, which brings us to the 7th thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in their Yale careers: early selection to Phi Beta Kappa. Dorks.
Just kidding.
One of the most exciting and controversial events of junior year leads us to the 6th thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from during their Yale careers: Playboy magazine's Women of the Ivy League.
The Yale Women's Center began a fund to pay the selected women $500 to keep their clothes on. Corey and I have decided that if you'll pay us $500 each, we can guarantee that our clothes will remain on for the entirety of the Class Day ceremonies. However, if you don't come up with any money, who knows what might happen?
On the topic of uncertainty, it seems you never know what might happen concerning the wacky hijinks of the Yale administration. Lee Bass happened to have an extra $20 million lying around, so he gave it to Yale. Anyway, Yale gave back the money, teaching Mr. Bass a harsh lesson on life. Money cannot buy Yale.
Money can, however, buy us. Mr. Bass, you don't even want to know what Corey and I would do for that $20 million.
As we grew into more mature Yale students, we realized that it was our civic duty to trade the privilege of scamming on the incoming freshmen for the opportunity to receive free room, board, and a sweet single on Old Campus. Which brings us to the 5th thing that Corey and Jeff were ejected from in the past 4 years: freshman counselorships.
Junior year also presents us with one of the most long-standing traditions at Yale University. It is an opportunity to develop relationships with classmates you may have otherwise never known. It's also an opportunity to make connections that will prove invaluable in the rest of your life. All of these wonderful things, however, and not surprisingly, did not happen to us.
Which brings us to the 4th thing that Jeff and Corey were rejected from in the past 4 years: secret societies. We're not in them. And I'm not just saying that because I'm in Skull and Bones and I have to keep it a secret. Really, we're not in them. We wish we were, but we're not.
Onward to the summer before our senior year. While New Haven was honored to be hosting the Special Olympics World Games, many seniors were off to summer jobs, padding their resumes, and hopefully gaining experience that would lead to future employment.
Yeah, right. It didn't work. I worked at the White House, and I still can't find a job.
Well, George Bush kind of has the same problem. Anyway, we came back to New Haven excited about the prospect of being seniors, which turned out to be not that cool after all. Not only are the people here not that impressed, but they're going to make all of us leave the day after tomorrow. And the sad thing is, there are whole buildings I haven't even been in, like the University Collection of Musical Instruments.
Or that CCL place. You know, I hear it's underground.
Yeah, it is underground, Corey. I'll take you there sometime. But back to the beginning of senior year. We all returned excited at the prospect of a new, flexible meal plan, which would allow us to trade approximately $600 worth of dining hall food for $100 worth of meals at local restaurants. The sad thing is, it was a good deal for a lot of people.
I don't believe the unions thought so. That reminds me, I still have to spend 72 flex dollars tomorrow at Dakota J's.
Well, as we were covering, it seems the theme for senior year turned out to be labor strife. First, it was GSO. Now, I've always been staunchly pro-labor. See my sticker? For my whole life, I have supported unions, honored picket lines. I even carry a little picture of Jimmy Hoffa in my wallet. But even I couldn't support GSO. They went about their grade strike all wrong. GSO could have accomplished the same thing by giving everybody all A's. It would have been just as disruptive as no grades at all. And something tells me that undergraduate support might have been a teeny bit bigger.
A large part of senior year is the quest for employment. We were all confident that a Yale diploma alone would guarantee us a great job. Surprise, no soup for you. Job hunting became rather tedious after the 15th letter saying how impressive my credentials were, but that I didn't meet their current needs. Luckily, I'm on file at many of the top corporations in America today. Which leads us to the third thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the last 4 years: investment banks and consulting firms.
But that's good. I don't want to make a lot of money anyway.
Yeah, which is why some of us decided to go on to graduate schools. Seniors took their LSATs, MCATs, GREs, GEDs, got letters of recommendation from faculty members they hardly knew, and shipped off their applications complete with hundreds of dollars in application fees.
Now, I'm sure this isn't surprising to you, which brings us to the second thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the last 4 years: continuing education.
Who wants to go on to grad school anyway? Take law school, for example. Lawyers are dirty, smelly, ambulance-chasing parasites who prey on the misfortunes of others. We don't need any more of them.
Wait, you mean you didn't get into any of those law schools?
Nope, last rejection letter came yesterday.
Second semester is also the time when seniors select a topic so interesting that they will write a 50-page paper on it. For some, it is a book or an historical event. For others, it may be a personal research project. The one thing that they all have in common is that they're all written in the period of about 3 days near the end of spring break. Or, unfortunately, if things aren't going so well, ordered from the back pages of Rolling Stone magazine.
This year's second semester brought an added bonus: a strike. We all learned how to survive in New Haven on $105.84 a week, and how to keep our bathrooms clean. And my grandfather says Yale doesn't teach us anything useful.
After finals, seniors traveled to Myrtle Beach for a week of cold, bleak weather, quarter drafts at the Spanish Galleon, and the opportunity to watch fellow Yaleys swim naked across the Crazy Zach's pool.
After a week at Myrtle, and as much drinking as the human liver should be able to take, we came back to senior week hoping to find a break from the constant bombardment of alcohol. But did the senior class council provide us with a class of 1996 dialysis machine? No. They planned nights at bar, Toads, Gatsby's, and a pub crawl. Please, let me graduate so I can go home and be sober.
Which brings us to today, and the number one thing that Corey and Jeff were rejected from in the past 4 years.
That's right, we're not graduating.
Yup, we failed EE 101, the easiest class at Yale.
Now that we've taken you down memory lane, we want to thank all of the class of 1996 for easing the pain of our constant rejections.
And we would like to thank our parents for 4 years of support and $100,000. Think about that, $100,000. You realize that's 400,000 games of Mortal Kombat?
Good luck, everybody, with whatever you might do. We know that the class of 1996 will make Yale proud.
And keep in mind that even if you lose touch with your friends and everyone else you know here, you know that Yale University will contact you 3 or 4 times a year asking for money.
Congratulations, class of 1996. One more day to go.
Don't do anything stupid tonight.
Thank you, Corey and Jeff, for that walk down memory lane. Right now, I would like to introduce the Whippin' Poops of '96, who will perform for the Yale College class of 1996. They will be singing an original composition entitled Class Song. The music was composed by Mark Kressel, and the poem was written by Joshua Adler.
Those who came before us are like fables, as doubtless we departing will appear, yet through both new and old around these tables could share a drink and sing bright college years, bright college tables strewn with empty cups and matches that cover desperate scratches carved so deep. They teach that time and destiny will catch us. We are to learn what long and let us drink and eat. And when your letters meet with wooden steps and mine are not
Thank you, Wickham Hoos, for that special selection. Every year, a poem written by a member of the graduating class is chosen as the Ivy Ode. While the ode is read, two students plant ivy on Old Campus near a stone inscribed with the class numerals.
This year's Ivy Ode was written by Douglas McKay, a member of the Jonathan Edwards class of 1996. The class of 1996 has chosen to place its brick outside of Phelps Gate, not only because Phelps Gate represents the traditional entrance and exit of Yale College classes, but also because the green symbolizes the class of 1996's extraordinary commitment to community service within the city of New Haven. Accordingly, the Senior Class Council's community service co-chairs, Yuri Iwaoka and Wai-San Chan, will plant the ivy outside of Phelps Gate. Thank you.
"4 years ago, a tiny seedling, too small, crept up on a crack in the earth made dry by the sun. Determined to cover, the vine played past courtyards, past cobbles, past towers, past us, etching our faces on a canvas of memory, sketching each moment, one to each leaf, forcing life through the cracks and filling our spaces. Saw our laughter, our tears, from the end of a light beam. Reached out for the infinite, whispering loudly enough, hold on tight to your friends. Too quickly, though, the gold light of the late afternoon bathed unreached outskirts, and an ode echoed from outcrops, forcing the vine to take rest, dig its fingers deep in the line. As the trowel turns its first clump, watch the vines melt. In the courtyards, the cobbles, the towers, and us. Each leaf holds an image, cherish their colors. Grab your rake and gather a pile, to run and to jump and sling over your shoulder. It's 4 years of friendship. Take good care not to fill up that crack in the earth made dry by the sun."
Ping Tan, president of the Glee Club, will now lead us in singing Bright College Years.
Thank you. Welcome to Yale's finest hour. It is a grand occasion for which we have gathered as the Yale community, because today we celebrate your achievements as members of the graduating class. We are inspired by your dreams and ambitions. Your potential contributions to society, nurtured here, fills us with hope for the future. As you engage the larger world, remain curious and think critically about what it offers, but avoid the kind of cynicism and skepticism that will rob you of your capacity to feel the pain and see the potential of others and stifle the use of your imaginations. As much as the world needs your talents and commitments, resist the temptation to blossom too soon. Along your journey, take time to ponder and appreciate the awesome, beautiful, mysterious, and divine nature of life and of your lives. You are graduating at a time when many people have lost hope, refuse to accept other people who are different from themselves, and when the spiritual aspects of life are devalued. There is disagreement among members of the Yale community about the quality of their relationship to Yale. Some of them have chosen this time to further express their discontent about this matter. Your Yale experience has encouraged you to be tolerant of others whose values, opinions, and backgrounds are different from your own, and to seek a common ground agenda for all people based upon principles of mutual care, respect, and justice. Continuing to do so beyond these walls will be a great challenge for each of you, given the grief that is at the core of our national religious, economic, social, and political life. I wish you success in relieving some of this grief. We offer now this prayer. We give thanks, O God, for this celebration and for the men and women whom we honor today. We are mindful of those who nurtured their gifts and dreams and whose love sustains them. Be with each graduate on their journey. Bless their dreams and increase their confidence. May they trust in the goodness of life, themselves, other people, and you. Amen.
Mr. President, I have the honor to present candidates for bachelor degrees in Yale College for the degree of Bachelor of Arts, 1004 in number, for the degree of Bachelor of Science, 235 in number. They have been recommended. They have been recommended by the faculty of Yale College and approved by the corporation, and I now ask you, by your official act, to confer upon them these degrees.
By the authority vested in me, I confer upon you the bachelor's degrees in Yale College as designated by the Dean and admit you to all their rights and responsibilities.
Mr. President, I have the honor to present the candidates for honorary degrees. For the degree of Doctor of Science, Jack St. Clair Kilby, scientist and inventor.
Your inventive genius
For the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, humanitarian. For the degree of Doctor of Humane Letters, Stefan Ernst Schmidt-Heine, business leader. For the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, Charles T. Close, artist. For the degree of Doctor of Laws, the Honorable Richard A. Posner, jurist and scholar. For the degree of Doctor of Medical Sciences, Dr. Benjamin Solomon Carson Sr., pediatric neurosurgeon. For the degree of Doctor of Social Science, Eleanor Jack Gibson, psychologist. For the degree of Doctor of Music, Paul F. Simon, singer and songwriter.
Let us pray. Holy and blessed God, who calls each person to undertake the journey of life and to follow where the Spirit leads them, we thank you for the part of our journeys that have led us to Yale and to the discovery of this world of learning. Now, gracious God, another journey must begin. You who have called us to this place, call many into new pathways and pursuits. We know that the pilgrimage and the vision is both ancient and ever new. Let those who leave this place now as graduates never forget the higher calling of service and sacrifice for your sake and for the sake of the family of all humanity. I commit you to the peace of God. Amen.
They started at 10, and here they are. Like never close enough game. They never put the ropes up. Ushers never set the ropes up. I was down there trying to get them to put ropes up. I'm sorry, you're all going to have to move back. Everybody's got to move back. We need room for the procession to get in. Right there. Move back, please. Please move back. Step back, please. Move back.